All right, YouTube, this video has been a long time coming. Today, we're going to be talking about the Beretta M9A4. Let's dive into it. All right, diving into the Beretta M9A4, let's get into it. The Beretta M9A4 is a 90 series variant of pistol. It is based off of the Beretta M9 or the Beretta 92. It is a double action, single action, hammer fired 9mm pistol, which if you know me, I am pretty fond of that operating mechanism. It utilizes the Beretta's tilting block lockup design, which is a pretty forward thinking design by Beretta. It's been around for quite some time and makes for an extremely accurate pistol. Very forward thinking. So we'll get into that in a little bit. So what does the M9A4 do, or what features does it offer that sets it apart from other ones? Well, starting off, it is a aluminum frame pistol with a steel slide. Comes standard with 18 round 9mm magazines from the factory. It is 8.7 inches in overall length, 5.4 inches in overall height, and 1.5 inches in width. Weighs about 33.4 ounces unloaded. Has a 5.1 inch threaded barrel, threaded half by 28, which is a pretty common thread pitch for 9mm pistols or just handguns or rifles in general. So you can mount your suppressors or compensators on this just fine. It does come from the factory with an optics cut slide, which you can purchase from Beretta optics mounting plates for about $45 to mount most of your red dots that are currently on the market. It does come standard with tritium iron sights from the factory, which is quite nice, pretty much combat ready. It does have a Beretta short reset trigger in it, so it's it's decent. We'll get into that too. It offers some removable grips, and it is Cerakoted in FDE. Coming in with an MSRP of about $1,229. You can pretty much pick this pistol up. Probably the cheapest you can probably find it is $1,050 brand new, but for the most part, sitting around that $1,150 mark in the store, it's probably where it's going to be at. So with that being said, how did we get to the Beretta M9A4? Let's get into it. So how did we get the Beretta M9A4? Well, the Beretta M9A4 is based off of the Beretta M9A3, which was a predecessor launched to compete in the U.S. Army's Modular Handgun System program. It competed against 11 other pistols, most notably the M17, which ended up winning the Army's contract, and the Glock 19X, the Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, and a few other models of pistols. And ultimately, most of these pistols actually did pass the test, and most of the tests that the U.S. Army put them through, the Beretta M9A3 included, but most of them failed in one of the key categories or key requests from the U.S. Army, and that was modularity. In the Beretta M9A3, it lacked modularity. So the M17 ended up winning the contract and replacing the Beretta M9, and the M9A3 kind of rode off into the sunset until it was retooled, revamped, and the M9A4 was produced. So what are the major differences between the M9A4 and the M9A3? Well, the M9A4 offers the optics ready cut slide from the factory, does offer a short reset trigger from the factory, and it has the 92X grip panels. It does have a slightly more beveled magazine, and it has 18 round magazines from the factory instead of 17 round magazines from the factory. So for the most part, the Beretta M9A4 and M9A3 share the same footprint, but the M9A4 has the updated optics cut slide and the short reset trigger, which I think were some crucial things to add or introduce in order to continue to hang with most of the modern day pistols that are out there. So what are my thoughts on the Beretta M9A4? Let's dive into it. So first things first, one of the things that I like about the Beretta M9A4 is that it is a double action, single action operating mechanism or trigger mechanism. So, we can pull the trigger with it in the uncocked position or in the cocked position. Just, if you know me, I am really partial to double action, single action pistols. I do really love the looks of the Beretta M9A4. It just looks like a combat handgun, a modern combat handgun, which is awesome. Kind of has some of the classic feel to it as well, but just overall a modern pistol. Its fit and feel is also really aggressive. the grip texture of these 92X panels allow you just to really capture that pistol and maintain control of it. So if you're not really a fan of aggressive texture, you may not like the M9A4, but me personally, I love to have that extra texture so I can get real good control up onto the pistol. It is a clean and thoughtful execution, I think, compared to the most Berettas that are out there. It offers a lot of features and is just definitely geared towards that tactical combat realm, which I just think it's a very good execution at that. Um, One thing I do also want to note is I think the trigger shoe is really comfortable compared to uh, many other double action, single action pistols out there. I do think the Beretta uh, M9A4 does a good job having a nice, clean, smooth, comfortable trigger shoe there. But that'll lead us into some of the things I don't like about the Beretta M9A4. I think that the Beretta M9A4 has a good trigger shoe, yet I think the trigger, for being a short reset trigger, I think does fall a little bit short compared to other variants out there. So just as an example, I mean, it does have a short reset. We'll go ahead and pull the trigger, rack the slide, and then, I mean, you can see that the reset is decently short, but the trigger just seems like it has a lot of play and a lot of giving into it. And I'm being a little picky because ultimately, when compared to a striker fire pistol, it's still night and day better for the most part for most striker fire pistols. But compared to other pistols in its price range or in its class, I think that like the SIG 226, the CZs, they just have a little bit better trigger, in my opinion. So for its class, or for what class it's trying to be in, I think there could be some improvement there. One thing I also want to note is, from the factory, my sights were off quite a bit, and I was actually really surprised with that. But it was definitely shooting at like 25 yards. It was shooting pretty well to the right, and I had to adjust the sights. Now, it's not a major thing because actually most pistols that I get, I do have to tweak the sights, whether it be ever so slightly. They're just, not never typically going to be 100% perfect from the factory, but these were pretty far off, which I was really surprised with. The optic setup on this is kind of a make it work system. I don't really like that we have to get optics plates and then just like kind of mount this big optics plate on here and then mount an optic, and then it's going to be like sticking over the like sides of the gun. The Beretta M9 was just not designed to have an optic on it. And I'm an iron sight pistol shooter to begin with, so it doesn't really bother me. But to some people, that's probably going to be something that not that it looks completely goofy, but it's just something. They made optics work on the M9. They didn't build a pistol around putting optics on it, which is I mean, the gun's been around for many, many years, so long before red dot pistol optics were popular. So I understand that, but that's just something to take into account or note about the pistol. And last but not least, one of the things that I really dislike about the M9A4 is the polymer guide rod. I just think that when you're getting a combat pistol, it should just have a steel guide rod in it. I just don't understand. I mean, yes, have we proven that polymer guide rods are strong and can hold up? Yes, but why put yourself in a position where you could induce a failure just because we wanted to save a few bucks on a guide rod? You're already paying $1,200 for a pistol. Give me a aluminum or steel or whatever type of guide rod that's going to be strong, and it's of ferrous metal of some sort that's just strong, stronger than polymer at least. So those are some of my complaints about the M9A4, but overall, still a huge fan. I've always loved Berettas. I like the way they look, the way they feel. They're just, I think, really cool pistols, and the M9A4 does not fall short of that. It is a very cool, awesome pistol. So, in conclusion, the Beretta M9A4, I think, is a very tasteful improvement over the M9 and even the M9A3. It does offer some things that a modern pistol should offer. Does do some things better than some of the other pistols in its class, like compared to the 226, the M9A4 has a much better bore axis compared to CZ's. I think the trigger shoe, for the most part, is better than CZ's. So it does offer some things that I think set it apart. But when you get into this double action, single action, kind of high end pistol or higher end combat pistol, you know, there are just going to be things that set themselves apart from others just ever so slightly. But for the most part, they're all going to be pretty good options. Um, can't really complain a ton because they just really are well made pistols to begin with. So with that being said, I think that's going to wrap this video up for today. If you guys haven't enjoyed, you know, watching this video and you think the M9A4 may be a good option for you, go pick one up and get to training. I think that overall, most people will be happy with the Beretta M9A4. It is a, you know, pretty classic yet modern pistol, which is just something that's cool in my opinion, and I think other people may find that cool as well. So with that being said, I think that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I think that's going to do it all for today. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.